So with that, we're going to begin with a quick slide of the HCM footprint overview, and then we'll follow the agenda that was just mentioned. We use a lot of terms at Infor. You'll hear things like Cloud Suite HCM, HCM. The Cloud Suite HCM does not have to be in the cloud. It can be on-prem, but we highly recommend the Cloud Suite HCM solution in the cloud. But we also use terms like global HR, and people think, what if we're not a global organization? Well, global HR speaks more to the depth and the breadth and the expansiveness of the solution, although it can be used around the world and for multinational organizations and things like that. We also use a word, talent management, and so people get confused, but quite simply, HCM is the umbrella under which everything fits. So when we say Infor HCM, it's everything related to human capital management. Now we do have what we call the core HR solution. And right here in front of you, you'll see some topics in a box. But the key takeaway here is it's a comprehensive solution that's tracking recruitment to retirement. Everything is in one place, everything is integrated, and you'll get a chance to see it firsthand. But notice here, we have a comprehensive employee record. Transition management is the onboarding and offboarding. We really don't refer to it as onboarding and offboarding anymore because folks use it for so many things. Say someone's moving from a clerical to an administrative position, they're transitioning. Well, there's things we need them to do, and we can automate that process, and we can transition them using that same functionality. Part and parcel of the core, there's organizational structure, manager structure. Your jobs and positions are where we define what good looks like. In other words, we're very detailed in our jobs and position descriptions because this is more than just an HR record. It's a talent management solution, which is designed to help us get the right people in the right place at the right time. So we're tracking competency, skills, education, credentials, achievements, all those things that are going to help us grow our employees and make sure we have the right employees. And we're going to track all those employees. We have position management. And then part and parcel of the global HR, other things where we're tracking safety incidences. What kind of accidents are the employees having? And what are the costs associated with those? What's the cause of these? And can we stop some of these accidents by looking at the cause? And the health component, very important now. Who has had what vaccines, what shots, what jobs require certain health components? You define the health components, and we track those. It's an automated process. And employee relations, that's discipline or grievances, all part of our core solution. Absences, benefits, payroll. And then, of course, we have employee self-service, manager self-service, and then there's a knowledge base where employees and managers can go and search for things, information. And then we have case management where folks can ask HR a question, we can report a case, we can track that. Now, we further extend this with these modules I have here on the left and right, and we refer to these as the talent management components. And what we're really doing here is defining, let's put it this way, the goal of the whole system is to get the right people in the right place at the right time. And so each of these modules, we just check a box and say, do we want to turn them on or off? So you don't have to do everything at the outset. Generally, folks will go with the core, and they might start with talent acquisition and performance because those are the most labor-intensive paper processes that most organizations have today. But the learning piece and organizational goals and succession are all great modules that you would eventually use, but you don't have to do everything at once. Then we further extend the talent acquisition piece with behavioral assessments. In other words, if you have certain jobs that are constantly turning over, you no sooner get somebody in and they leave. We have a behavioral assessment. It's a patented process. We have multiple case studies, but essentially it gets to a person's, what we call their behavioral DNA, to help determine that they're the right person for the job. And so we see turnover greatly reduced, and we see people happier in certain jobs. And I don't have to tell you how unfortunate it is to get the wrong person in a job, and to get the wrong person who really taints the entire department. So you want to make sure you get the right person with the right skills. Additionally, we extend our development planning, which is really where we look at activities and goals and checklists and everything employees need to do. We have a learning module, LMS, which is the learning solution, and that is a complete learning management solution. It has a content creation engine built in it. You can create your own content. You can buy courses. That module is also linked with a Open Sesame, which is a provider of all kinds of courses. You can just pay for by course. You can buy the courses. You can create your own courses. If you already have courses that you're using that are SCORM compliant, we can use those as well. And lastly, we have the workforce management, which is really an extension of payroll and benefits, where we're capturing time. So it's a comprehensive solution. And the last thing I'll point out is underneath, you'll see that we have the reporting, the analytics. This stands for process automation and document management. So embedded in the solution is document management, and also delivered process flows, which automate all the processes that we've been talking about. So comprehensive, and we're going to spend most of our time today. We're going to start with employee experience. You'll see the employee profile, and we're going to touch on a lot of this today. So if there's anything in any one of these areas that we don't touch on that you want to see, be sure to tell me as we're moving through, and we can touch on it. So with that, I am going to begin the experience. I am in the solution as Sean Blair, and here's Sean right here. And this is my home page. Now I create this home page. That's very easy to do. There is a widget library. These are widgets. I just pick certain widgets. I can move them around however I would like. And if I want to add a widget, I can go to the widget library. And you can create your own widgets, but there's well over 100 that are delivered. And I can see ones that are application related. I can see those that are reports. There are some social widgets. And I build my own home page. Additionally, make the page look however I would like. So, for example, there are some page settings, and I can change the colors if I would like. And there's a host of other things that I can do here. But the point is, this is the home page that the employee creates, or you create for them. It can be at the employee level, department level, or at the organizational level. And an individual can have more than one home page. In this case, I have 3. And I'll talk about those in just a second. But these widgets are interactive. They'll take me places. They can be widgets that provide a reported information. They can be links to other things. They can be interactive. And we'll see some of that in just a moment. Additionally, here I can go anywhere in the solution that I would like. This is called my app switcher, and I can go to any application within the solution or outside of. So there are links here to things that are not Infor related, just like, if you have other applications, we can certainly connect to those, and a person would just go here and select. I have a lot because I demo a lot of different things, but over here, you can see I have an in-basket. I have a little bit about me. There are other things I can do here. I can get some help. This is a share icon. I'll show you that in a moment. And then I have some bookmarks. So I can go right here and navigate anywhere I want. So this is where I start my day. The first thing I want to do this morning is maybe enter some my time. Now, this may not be the way you enter time. You may use a different looking timesheet. When we get to time and attendance, we can talk about that. This is like a little clock that sits on the desktop. So for me, it's as simple as putting in my number and saying, I am going to work on a certain project or something like that. But it could be as simple as saying, I'm just going to start my meal and I'm taking a break or something like that. You don't have to use this. You'll see later there are many, many ways to enter time, and employees don't even have to enter time. We can just have standard time records. But since I'm doing kind of a day in the life, I'm just entering my time as I start. Now, when I come in first thing in the morning, I'll notice here I have some posts. I see where Manny covered for me yesterday. There was a meeting, and I couldn't go to the meeting, so I asked him to go to the meeting for me. So he says to me, Sean, I trust everything worked out well yet.
Hello?
Yep, I'm here. Okay, I got disconnected, it looked like, so we're connecting again. The issue here is in every kid in my neighborhood uses Comcast, as do I, and they are all doing their homework. So are you still able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. It looks like my screen froze for a second, so let me see if I can refresh. So I was saying that we have all these college kids home, and the back of my house is the Comcast portal, so to speak, and so at times we have problems. But what I was showing you was that I can come in here, I can see that Manny sent me this, and I can open this up. And here are the notes from the meeting. So I'm on the IT team, and so here are the notes from the information technology meeting. I review those. Nothing of great importance happened. I want to thank Manny for covering for me. I'm going to send that to him. And, my boss requires me to send the notes from the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and just share meeting notes with my boss. I can pick predefined users or groups or things like that. But in this case, I'm just going to send it to my boss, and I'm going to share that. So that just went to my boss. Very quickly, I'm able to see incoming information. I can respond to it right from this home page. Additionally, this is called a rave. Now, we actually use these at Infor. After I do a good demo, sometimes my boss or the account executive will say, hey, Robert did a great job. And it goes to my manager. And so in this case, if I start to type Manuel's name, it will populate. And I could say, you know, he is a real team player. And I can just say, now these raves can go on someone's performance review. And it's just a way that employees can encourage other employees and a way for managers and supervisors to see. With that, I am going to take a look at my emails. I can also get to my email from up here. So when my internet dropped, it has to reload. You'll find that there are posts, there are notes, there are emails. There's many ways to communicate. And this is where Paul's group in the implementation team, you know, some people like everything in one spot. Some people like everything via email. Some people want text, and all that is doable. You decide really how you want to receive your information and where you want to access it. I'm showing you a lot of different ways that can take place, but it's not how it has to take place. So you have great flexibility there. So here I see that I have a certification that's expiring. Here's this final reminder for open enrollment. And I see that I have a performance review and that I need to pick the person who is going to do the third-party rating for me. So from here, I could click right here and go to open enrollment. I could go to my profile from here and fill out that certification. We can actually put a link in the email and go directly from there. I'm just going to go up to my profile because I really want you to see that first, and we'll do the benefits piece last. So my profile is really what we call employee self-service or employee space. So what do we have here? This is everything employee self-service. So from here, I can see there's a home widget, a home page, and this home page is going to give me quick links to things. These are links to the same things that are over here on the side. So here's a link to benefit enrollment. I could easily just click here and go to benefit enrollment. I can hit the arrow back. Very easy to navigate, very easy to get to what I need to. And if I don't want to see the menu on the left, I can close it so I have more real estate. And again, I can see my reviews, my goals. Here's where I will do my open enrollment. Here's the learning. If I do sign up for a course, I can have a mentor, or throughout my career at the government, I can have a mentor assigned to me, and that mentor works with me to oversee my development. Here's my profile. I can find a coworker, search for coworkers. I can look for job opportunities. Here's that health and safety piece that we were talking about. And here is where I can do my time again. I can look at paychecks, W-4s, but at the same time, I can come right back here and click on some of those same things to see my paychecks or my performance reviews. Very easy to navigate. These are widgets. I put here what I want to see. And so the point is everything converges in one place. It's not a separate system for performance reviews. It's not a separate system for goals. It's not a separate system for compensation. All that information resides here, and it's intricately connected to my employee profile. So here's my employee profile. And so now, this is my HR record. I have full visibility into that HR record. Now, in a little bit, when we see the manager's view of this, there may be another tab down here called Employee Relations. Or if I log in as a super user in HR, I'm going to see benefits and things. But you control who sees what. But this is my employee record. And notice there's some basic information here. All this is drillable. I can click and I can see history, pending actions, things like that. See the actual fields that this involves. So when I do a report, I can get the actual field name. And so there's just a lot going on here. And I can personalize this. I'll show you that in a little bit. I don't have to have all these fields. I can make them different colors. I can make them required. All this can take place very configurable. So right here, I'll just scroll down. So here's some basic information about me. Here are my work assignments. Everything is drillable. I could drill into this. Here we have actions. And we'll talk about actions in just a minute, but right here I can change my name, I can create a document, request an activity, and these are smart actions. These actions show up on the appropriate page. So right here, when I'm looking at personal information, the actions that pop up, add a phone, add an email, add IM, you're not going to see those on another page because they don't apply. So they're called smart actions. And every time I click on an action, it's going to take me to that page or it's going to pop up a form. So this is a personal action form. Hundreds delivered. You can modify these, tweak these. Behind every one of these is a process flow, and you can tweak that flow and change it. But the actions are delivered and the flows are delivered. You're not creating that. It makes for a quick implementation, and you're really tweaking best practices. And so as I scroll down, you can see here that there are actions that I am able to do. Here I can add a beneficiary or a dependent. Here, it's not going to let me add a piece of property because the property is going to be issued to me from the organization. I can drill in and see all the particulars. I can actually see an image because we can attach an image to the phone or to the laptop, and that's part of the document management solution. So you'll see these actions throughout, and so it's really quite simple. If I needed to add a phone, I can click there, or right here, I can just double click and it opens up, and I can come down here and change this if I want. And up here, this tells me it's required. It's as simple as putting a T and it automatically defaults today's date. If I don't put a date, it requires it because we do point in time reporting. I can say, show me this record as of March 1st, 2010. Show me this record as of April 20th, 2015. Time reporting, we call it as of date, and it's great functionality. So I can go back and see what a record is. You saw me save that. It told me that it saved it for me. So this is my record. I interact with it. I'm part of the process. Looks like we have a little lapse in speed on the on my little MiFi here, but I apologize for that. So as I work down here, I can see my compensation, my payroll, my work preferences, my performance reviews, and we'll touch on some of these. Here's my talent profile. Now remember, I got an email that told me I had a skill or a competency or credential that was expiring. So here it is right here, my certification, and it tells me that I need to renew it. And so right from here, I can renew this. I can open this up and I can request to renew it and say I'm doing this because it's an update. And I can come down here and I can do an attachment. It's going to be my TIO. And then I just save that. Now that will be routed to HR and someone will have to validate that, and then I'll receive an email telling me that it's been validated. So I help maintain my record. I see my record. It's not a mystery to me what is on my HR record. Additionally, my record shows me how I'm doing in the sense that what fit am I for my job? I need to grow in this area right here of interpersonal skills and being adaptable. So I'm like a techie guy, but maybe I don't like change all that much, or I really don't interact with my coworkers well. That's an area of weakness for me, let's say. And now this is documented, and I don't have to guess what I need to do to improve. I can see all my skills right here, and right here I can click and take a course that's going to help me grow in my interpersonal skills. And when I finish that course and I'm successful and it's been approved by my manager, this will automatically update. And I can scroll down here and I can see all this information where I'm above and below and what I need to do. So I have a single line of sight into what I need to do to grow as an employee. In other words, we're managing the talent. We're getting the right people in the right place at the right time. It's a lifelong process, and I'm growing, and I'm able to participate in that. And here I can have my organizational goals as well as individual goals. Here is where I would interact with my mentor, and here I would see all my absences. One last thing I want to show you here before we talk about benefits is that this is my profile. And so I can come up here and print this profile if I would like. I'll just call it and I want to see not just this page, I want to see all pages. It is right here. So I'll click on it. And now that is my profile right there. So not only do I have full access to it, I can print it and keep it and save it. And I, as an employee, again, have full visibility into my HR record. I don't have to call HR and say, do I have this? Do I have that? Has my record been updated for this? I'm going to be notified when it takes place, and I have the ability to look at my record at any point in time. Now, I'm only seeing what you allow me to see. Now, if any of this scares you and you would say, oh, we would never do that, don't fret, because essentially, you don't have to give this information to your employees if it's not part of your culture. But it is what most organizations do, and it's an interactive process, and you're going to see that the manager is going to be involved in the employee's record process and growth as well. So lastly here, I just wanted to come over and let me go back here, and I'm going to go to open enrollment because I have to do that today. I have to finish that. And so again, I can access open enrollment from my homepage, from anywhere on employee self-service. There's a couple of different links. But this is how the process would work. And it works the same way for life events. It's not a different process. The employee is going to get the same look and feel. And so here we have the benefit introduction. I can see my current benefits. Here I can see my dependents, and notice here I can open this, but I can also have actions to add. I can right click and remove. So I can add, update, and delete right from here. We can have links. These are links to the various plans. And right here, I have a worksheet. So I could click here and get a form showing me of all my options. I could take it home and share it with my spouse, or I could log in from home if you allow folks to do that, and they can do open enrollment from home. You can have a survey. This survey happens to say, do you have a spouse that works with the government, or do you have a spouse who is otherwise insured? And so all those things can determine the premiums you charge and things like that. Additionally, here we have tools, and I like this because I just wanted to show you a couple.
Robert, you've gone quiet again. Everybody else can hear me, at least?
Yeah, I think we could.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. He should be back with us momentarily. Does sound like he's got a bad connection. Is this flowing well so far, though, while we're waiting for Robert?
Okay, hey, I'm back.
Hey, Robert.
At what point did you lose me?
Well, it just refreshed. We've lost maybe a minute and a half at most.
Okay, so had we talked about the worksheet and the survey?
You were just doing that.
The worksheets, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can click here on the worksheet. You can take home a paper copy of all your options, and you can take that, work through it with your spouse, or you can do it from home if you give access to your folks from home. Here's a survey that you can attach. This survey happens to ask, do you have a spouse that works for the government, and are they also taking insurance, or do they work for someone else and have insurance through their work, things like that. These are links to various plans, and then these benefit tools are pretty cool. And we won't have time to cover all this, but essentially what we have here is the knowledge base. And so I can search any topic. I can also ask HR a question and open up a case that's right here. But we're primarily here because I want to look at some health and wellness things. And this is really cool functionality. I can pick a plan, and then I say, you know what, I want to compare it maybe with the PPO plan. So now I have two plans side by side. I can really do as many plans as you allow. And then I can type here, I'm a guy, so I type the word baby. The system knows what I really mean. Now I can compare plan cost and get it out. So these are tools to help me make a good decision. I used to be a financial officer for a school system, and somebody would sit in the faculty room and tell all the employees that you pick the most expensive plan because you're obviously getting the best coverage, because the more expensive it is, the better the coverage. And we all know that's not true. And so another tool that we will offer is the benefit cost calculator. So I can come right down here to a medical cost calculator. What we do here is I can say my age is, let's say I'm 50, don't believe that. My tax rate, of course, your tax rate will be different, but it's configurable. And essentially, I can now look at these sliders. I can slide, and we can see which plan is better for me based on my services. But that's kind of general. So let's get more specific. So I can go to myself and go to a detailed view, say I'm going to have 5 primary visits. I see maybe 6 specialists, generally this. And so as I'm sliding, you can see that these numbers are adjusting. So it's a tool that's designed to help me make a good decision. That's why we call them benefit tools. So when I'm back here, I click on these tools and it helps me make a great decision. I'm not going to belabor this any longer. I'm going to move quickly through the process here. But we can see that I can work through plans and I can select, I can withdraw, I can open this and make my selection. And so for example, under dental, I see that I selected this plan and I can enroll dependents in this plan if I would like. And so I can see my dependent right here. So it's going to walk me through the entire process. It's intuitive, it's easy to use. At the end, I won't walk through the whole process in the interest of time, but at the end, it's not going to let me submit as long as I have errors. So it tells me that I have not picked the minimum number of dependents. It tells me that I have 60 days to make my initial enrollment for the supplemental life. I have to do evidence of insurability. So as soon as I submit this, I'll get an email telling me exactly what I need to do. And then I have some warnings. The warnings are soft. I can still move forward. I can still provide this information later. I cannot move forward if I have an error. And so once I'm done, I can view my confirmation statement. I can see the cost. And then up here, there'll be a button for me to submit, but it's not going to let me submit at the moment because I have this error. I could correct the error, but you get the idea. So that's kind of the employee experience. What did we do? We started with this home page where my day begins. We could see that I can see my emails. I can enter my time. I can navigate throughout the system from here. I have links to where I need to go. I'm interacting with other coworkers, and I'm able to do the things that I need to do, like open enrollment and navigate to my record and update whatever I need to update. So with that, what I'd like to do is move to the manager experience. But before we do that, any questions here about the employee experience? All right, great. I apologize for my system dropping here and there, but I'll keep an eye over here. I can see if it drops, and if it does, I'll immediately hook up again.
I have a question.
So now, yes, please.
Regarding the posts, right? Is
Yeah.
there anything like an urgent or a flagged post, or does it just come in chronologically?
These are going to, these are from any other user in the system. They could actually type urgent or something like that, but the posts as they're coming in are not prioritized, if that's the question. But there can be text that says it's urgent or not.
Okay.
And the email, though, does have that functionality, right? You can actually say whether the email is urgent or not. You can put some kind of a flag. And this can be your email. It doesn't have to be the system email, obviously. This is a window. Remember, we talked about the widgets? This is a web widget. And inside the web, I just have the widget, I just have a URL, and this is the URL for the email. Now you can have whatever URL you want in there. And so I can link to anywhere. So for example, when I demonstrate a payroll manager, there may be a payroll association that has their own website, and I may be a member of that. And there's a login page for the payroll manager's website or the HR site for current rules and regulations for the government or something like that. And I can have these home pages, and I can have that URL right there, and I can quickly go to where I need to go. Additionally, every one of these widgets right here, so when I click here, I can configure this, and I can say, this is the image I want to see, and this is where I want it to take me when I click on it. And all I did was copy these URLs. The one is from the system, and so when I click here, it's going to take me to open enrollment. And I can also, that can be inside or outside of your organization. It can be a third-party website or just any URL. So it's very easy to configure and navigate to where I need to go and see whatever I need to see. All right, so now this, you'll notice here, I have a completely different looking dashboard. This happens to be the manager, and I am in now, and we're going to talk a little bit about a manager experience. So I have manager experience going to, okay, that's good. So we'll wrap this up by a little bit, maybe 10:50, something like that. So we're a few minutes. We started earlier than we originally planned because we didn't have the one presentation that was 15 minutes. So I have my eye on the clock. I'll be careful. I know that your time's valuable, and so we'll move along. And again, feel free to stop me, and if we need a break, let me know. So here I am in as a manager now. Notice I have multiple dashboards. So I might have accounts payable here. There's my payroll, open enrollment, and then I have a benefits administrator. So I can have multiple home pages. I can have more than one role. And in this case, I'm a manager of the IT staff. Now I come in first thing in the morning. Again, I can get to wherever I need to in the system. I'm going to have more bookmarks because I'm a manager and I've got a lot more things that I'm doing. I see my post. I see John says, better look at this. He's saying, we need to have an emergency compensation meeting in your office this morning at 10 o'clock. I need a list of all financial staff with salary prior to the meeting. Yeah, so I need to get on that. I see Allie's asked me for office supplies and break room supplies. That was yesterday. And then a couple of weeks ago, Brad asked for our supplies. So I got to get on that. That's important. So, but the first thing I need to do is get this report to John. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to my resource listing. So this is a listing of all my HR records. And what I'm going to do very quickly, collapse this so I can get a full view of all my records. And let's see, here's a list of all the employees. Now I can drill in every time. If I drill into one of these, it's going to be their profile. We just saw a profile. But my goal isn't to get into the profile right now. I need to get a list for him with salary. Now this list does not have a salary. Now this is called a list view, and every list view is a report. Let me show you. I come right up here and I can say that I want to personalize this list. And I want to add a field to this list. And I'm just going to start to type. I want their total rate of pay. So it goes out there and it looks for it. Let's type ahead, and I'm going to say, okay. Now to this list, I just added total rate of pay. Now I maybe want to take this and say, I want to move it up. So like I can click here and say, move up. And maybe I want it to move up just to pass the employee. I can edit this and I can put sorts on it. I can add compute fields. Not going to do all that at the moment. I'm just going to say okay. And now this list is recreated. And you'll notice that it now has the total rate of pay in it. And right here, I can pick position, I can pick location. I think he said he wanted all the financial, F-I-N-A-N-C. Enter, and now here are all the financial positions. I don't need to do anything else now other than just say I'm going to share this and I'm going to send that to John. And the system is going to go out and find the user. Or I can just say give it to connected users. I can pick a certain group. I can pick everybody on my team. And so I can just share it. So the point is, very quickly, I had to create a report. Did it? It took me less than 5 minutes. And I can add any field from the employee record I want to on this list view. I can save this list view. I can up here and I can say options. I can make this a report. I can export it. Notice here I have tabs. I could actually create this view and have tabs all across the top here. A lot of ways to get information to my coworkers and access information. By simply clicking this red eye, it takes me back to my dashboard. And so I knocked that out. So before this meeting, let me do a few other things. Let me go check some emails. And I see that I have another rater. We'll talk about that with performance. I see that I need to approve some time off requests. Okay. So now I can come right here, and here's my screen that I have where I see my time off request. So I can click here and approve both these days, or I can just click here and just approve the one day, or I can deny it. I'm going to approve it. I'll submit it. I can put a box, comment. I just approve that day. And very quickly, I can come right back to my home page here, and I can keep moving along. These supplies I'll have to order later because the folks are coming in for the meeting. So play along with me. I got the report. Everybody's walking into my office. I will tell you that if I had to go to their office, I could take my iPad. I'll just show you. We'll actually use a mobile device later, but I'm going to simulate mobility now. I can basically take my mobile device with me. So I'm just showing you how it will orient. And it's device agnostic, and it really is mobility anywhere. And so I could take this iPad to the meeting, but in this case, everybody came to my office. So in my office now, here we are. And so we're having this compensation meeting, and we're looking over the list, and then somebody says, oh, you know, we're getting a lot of complaints. People are saying that the men are making more money than the women. And so I'm going to come right here to my business intelligence reports. We deliver all this information. You'll see a dashboard populate here momentarily. This is a reporting tool that can bring information from multiple systems, and we have multiple topics. So here for compensation, I'm just going to click on compensation. And underneath here, there are multiple other reports. But the first thing I can see right here is that the average salary is $55,000. And I come over here and I can see that females average is $56,500 and males are $55,300. So that's just not true. The men are not making more than the women. And I can see the average salary by department. So here's prisons. HR is making $35,900. IT is making $78,000. So I can see very quickly, I can debunk any myths. I can get the information that's needed. It's not like I have to go to a meeting, get dumped on, and then have to go back and report later to everybody. I can very quickly see all this information that's relevant. So I was able to answer that question. Then somebody says at the comp meeting, well, I hear people are leaving because they're not being paid enough, and our employees are just walking out the door, and we're constantly hiring. So, well, let's take a look at that and see. So I want to look at some employee information, and I want to see the average time in the job. Well, I can see right here that the average person is here 11.32 years. I mean, they're not coming in and out the door. They seem to be liking what they're doing. And I can see the average, and then I can see the folks in the school system are above. The police force is actually above. And we can see the average time in job by gender, by department, and a lot of other cool information here. So these reporting tools are all delivered. There's an ad hoc reporting tool. There's a tool to export and import information. We don't have time to cover all those, but just know that there is the ability for every single user to get the information they need from the solution. And later, if I remember, or you remind me, I can show you the point in time reporting, which is pretty cool as well, where I can go on the employee record and just say, show me this record as of 3 years ago. But the takeaway here is that you, as a manager, user, HR person, finance person, you can get the information that you want. Now notice I am the manager of an IT department here. However, I need to order supplies, as my employees are reminding me. So the first thing I need to do is go to the financial area, requisition self-service. But I don't have to log out for that. I could come up here to my app switcher, or I can go right here to my link and go to my requester, and I can request supplies. Now this is taking me to the financial solution. So from my home page, I can get anywhere I need to go. And you can do the same. If you have a different financial solution, we can still, from that home page, put bookmarks and get you there. This is our GL financial solution. And I am going to go to requisition self-service. And this is where I would order supplies. And there's a whole lot of cool things here. And so here's a shopping list. I can create these shopping lists. And it's for items, that vendors you frequently use. Can be associated with a contract, but doesn't have to be. These can each be different. You can have multiple vendors. It can come from your internal supply room. Additionally, down here we have what's called punch out, and this is where we actually have catalogs, and we're actually going to the vendor managed catalog pricing that you have managed with them. Here's some recently requested items. So if I just click on these napkins, I can say I want to add that. And I'm going to say I'm going to add it to the requisition. So now I see I've ordered these pens. I've got the napkins. Over here, I can do a whole host of things. I won't belabor all this, but I can view the details. I can add an additional line. I can add notes. I can update the distribution of where I'm going to charge it. I can come up here and search, and I'm going to say that I would like a mouse. Ask for that. I can add it to the request. So the point is, in my manager role, I can get anywhere I need to. I can order those supplies, and I'm just going to go ahead. And that's going to be routed. In process, and it will be routed to whoever it needs to go to. For me to get back home, it's just as simple as going to my home page. So as a manager, I have everything I need. You saw me quickly get to reporting information. I was able to approve time off. Now, what I'd like to do is continue moving through some of those things that I wanted to show you regarding the employee profile. So I want to go see my staff.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yes.
This is Tishana. I have one question concerning inventory, but I see you have the financial solution. So that would take care of the inventory in your department. Like if I want to know how much stocks I have and so before I order from outside, would that take care of it?
Absolutely. Yes. If you have, in other words, Paul, you can help me here.
Yeah, I mean, we've crossed out of HCM. Perhaps we probably shouldn't have shown all that, given the scope of this call, but that's moving out of HCM into Cloud Suite Financials and Supplies Management, which is the upgrade for the financial applications that you've got at the government. In other words, the suite includes what you have today with ledger, payables, purchasing. SmartStream does have a supplies inventory, and that's why Cloud Suite certainly does as well. And there's an equivalent there of funds control called budgetary control that does the same funds checking, whether it's stock or non-stock. And there's several new modules related to bank recon and close management, capital projects, expenditure projects. There's a fairly robust suite. And I'm happy to give you a flavor for that in terms of what's included in that when we do our follow-up call. It wouldn't be part of what would be licensed here. Just want to be clear about that. HCM doesn't include that part of the application, the requisitions and for stock or non-stock. We have moved into a different cluster. But to Robert's point, when you're a user, it's the same application. You're not, from Cloud Suite's point of view, you're not really leaving Cloud Suite. You're still in Cloud Suite. When you've moved as a user over to do requisitioning, or if you're a project manager and managing a capital project, all of those things can happen with a user, including a user that works, in any of the HR areas. It's one unified suite. But this licensing that we're talking about right now in the short run would just be for HCM. That makes sense?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And I of course I'd love to give you an overview of the full range of suite. So if you want, I can, in that next presentation when we talk about the scope, I was planning to give you more of an overview of the architecture in preparation for the technical presentation, but maybe it would be useful to just talk about the full roadmap for Cloud Suite, because it is quite extensive. So I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, and it would take maybe 20 minutes to do that. That work?
Great.
Great. I'll turn it back over
That's
to you, Robert.
fine.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to wrap up the manager experience here momentarily, and then if you'd like, we can take a break, and then we can come back and start with the talent acquisition. But just to come full circle here, remember we said that when I was in as an employee, that's called employee space, and I am a manager, and this is called manager space. Now, as was mentioned, it's a role-based solution. So I'm generally going to be, I have more than one role. Later, we're going to look at the recruiter role. If I were, a manager, I can also be an employee. So I happen to be a manager who can also see my employee role, because everyone's going to be an employee, and then they're going to be an employee and something else. Here, I have all these roles, but you may be the employee and the benefits manager. You may be the employee and an HR generalist. I'm, in this case, employee and I'm a manager. So I'm in manager space. And as a manager, I'll close this. So as a manager, I can remember, just like as an employee, I have all this, everything I need in one spot. I can see my staff. I can manage all my staff's goals. I can see all their performance reviews, absence information, learning. I can be involved in the talent acquisition process. I can be involved in the compensation process. As I scroll down here, you can see all this information. Now, your managers may not do that. We would just hide this. They wouldn't see certain tabs. Your managers will only be doing what we want them to do. Remember, we talked about this all actions menu as well. And when I go to a given page, I'm going to have more actions available to me. So let me show you that. So as a manager now, I'm going to click on Sean. And I can actually go to her profile if I would like. Now, this is the same profile we just saw. We saw the profile from Sean's perspective. But notice here now there's a couple new tabs, employee relations, take notes. And so I have more information about Sean because I'm the manager. But it is not a different record. It is the same record. We call it a single source of truth. And if I wanted to see her record, I could change the set as of date. Actually, it's over here. You might have seen that. There was the set as of date. I can click here and I can change this date. And then I will see her HR record as of that date. That's the value of putting a date on every transaction, because now I can go back and recreate this record as of any point in time. Notice up here, I have many more actions. If you don't let your managers or supervisors change pay rates, that won't be there. Notice a bunch of other actions. I can assign an activity. I can create an appraisal. I can send them an email. I can update their. You control what actions your managers have. When I'm on one page, I see different actions than when I'm on a different page. Remember, these are called smart actions. So when I'm on the work assignment, I can see I have promote and transfer and add a work assignment, which is different when I'm on personal information. Here's that same page that we just looked at, and I too can add phones and emails. Notice here we have a pending address change. So we can make the actions immediate, or the person can change their address and we say, no, 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 we're not going to let them change the address unless we know about it. Because in our payroll solution, the address drives the taxes. That's not relevant necessarily for you. But in our case, we put a pending here. So I can work down and I can see the same information that the employee sees. I have different actions. I see that same talent profile that we just saw. References, education. I see the credentials that are expiring. I see that same fit analysis that the employee sees. So I see where Sean needs to grow. I can come up here and I can pick an action and I can assign her an activity, or I can assign her, this would be a course, this would be a personal activity. Here would be a checklist of things that she needs to do. I'm involved as much or as little as you want your managers to be involved. A lot of organizations, everything's very centralized and the managers do very little. They push it to HR and HR does everything. A lot of organizations are decentralized and you can push it out. You can be a combination, but the manager can be as involved or not involved to the extent that you desire. So in your organization today, do managers or do they not? Anybody? Are you still there? Did I lose you?
Robert, I think we're here. It's just I think everybody's on mute.
Okay.
Does somebody want to take that question?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you allow your managers and supervisors, do they generate personnel actions? Would you let your managers transfer or terminate employees, or is all that done at the HR central office?
No, those actions are done by HR Central.
Okay. And the point I was making is there may be some actions that really don't need to be at the central HR office, and you can push those out. And the ones that you don't want to take place at the supervisory level, we can remove them. You control what displays and what doesn't. But the
That would be
point,
great.
the point is a lot of tasks that you now do at the central office are probably manual and things that someone could do through manager or employee self-service if you allow them. So you can greatly reduce the workload within a processing things that employees and managers could actually do. Make sense? Very good. All righty, so at this point, we can move to talent acquisition. We've been going, what, 9:30, 10:30, we're about an hour and a half. Do we want to take a little break and then come back and do talent acquisition? I'll leave it up to you guys to decide.
What's the consensus? You want to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes before we resume?
I think we are good, Paul.
All righty.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Perfect.
we have 20 minutes and we're going to talk about recruiting. So is recruiting if I remember correctly from our discovery call, that's an area that we wanted to talk about a little bit and see how we can automate that process. So I'm going to show you a website here. This is actually your website. It's branded for the government, and I've posted a few jobs out there. So everything I'm going to show you kind of leads to this site, and this is where folks are going to end up. But there's many ways to get there. So the first thing I want to point out is if I am a recruiter and I am, let's say, at a job fair, or I'm even at some kind of a social or a meeting, or I need to get some candidate information relatively quickly. I just want to put this concept in front of you. What we have heard over and over again is that we need to make it easy to get people to apply for jobs. If it's an onerous process, if it takes an hour and a half for them to apply for a job, they're not going to do it. What can we do to make the process go more quickly? So we have this one screen picture. We have multiple ways to do this. I'm going to show you some of them. But say you're at a job fair, or even you just meet somebody and they say they're interested. You can hand them the iPad, and all they have to do is put in their first name, last name, email address, and you can pick a tag and say it's from a job fair, whatever. These are user defined, and you hit next. And at that point, you can say, I want to add them to a specific requisition, or you can just say submit, and you now have their information, and the recruiter or someone can call them later and say, hey, let's talk about a job that you might be interested in. So it's not going to take forever. It's very quick and it's very easy. That's one way. We're going to come back in a minute here to a requisition, but I want to show you a requisition, what it looks like. I have an IT job that I filled out the requisition for, but I wanted to show you something. Let's say that you have a Here's a poster, and you guys are hiring folks. Mobile here, just a second. I'm going to mirror my phone. So say I am an employee or an individual who is at a job fair, or I see this poster. I'm logging into my phone and talking at the same time. I'm going to mirror my phone. You should see it here shortly. So you're now looking at my phone. And what I want to do is go to the camera. So I'm going to come up here. Now you're now seeing my camera. There's my computer. I'm going to come right in on this QR code, click it, and it is going to take me to that same website that I just showed you. And I can come down here to the bottom and I can view job listings. I can come up top here if I already have a profile. I can log in. If I view the job listings and I come down here to information technology, here's a job that I posted. Now, the first thing I can do is I can just express interest. Express interest is just like the add a candidate. All I can do is say, I'm interested in this job. I don't have time to apply right now. Let me just give you my name, phone number, and email, and you can contact me later. So I express interest. I don't have to apply. The other thing I can do is I can say, this job looks good, but it's not really for me, but I'd like to share it with a friend of mine. So by clicking on share, I can share it on social media with a friend, or I can actually apply. And if I go to apply, if I already have a profile, it's going to ask me for my email address and password. If I don't, it's going to ask me to register, and it's going to ask me for first name, last name, email address, and I confirm my password. That's it. And then it will ask me, do I want to upload my resume? Do I want to bring in my resume from a social media site? Or do I just want to enter the information manually? I don't recommend entering it manually. But the point is that I am able to upload my resume and the system will parse it out. I can do the entire process online. I can register and apply for a job in less than 10 minutes. Very quick and easy to do. I'm going to close this for the moment. And I'm going to I'm going to go back to this site right here. And I'm going to log in and just kind of show you how the process would work. So you don't have to squint to see it on my phone. So I am now logged in, and you can see here that I am in as Alan Ang. I can see all the jobs. I can see my profile. Once I create my profile, it's created. I don't even have to apply for a job. I can just create my profile. My profile will sit out there, and then I can use that profile as I apply for various jobs. I can see any applications that I may have already started, and I can see that I started this one right here, so I'm going to continue. Just kind of giving you a feel for what this looks like from an applicant's perspective. And they're going to walk across this continuum. We're going to ask them, do you agree? Here are questions that you need to answer. These are user-defined questions. They can yes, no, long answer, short answer. We can ask for additional information, mail, you can see, and then this is where the applicant will show us or review their profile. And the profile is going to look like an employee record a little bit. We have the tabs down the side, and then when they're hired, we have all this information. But we're capturing in the profile employment, education, skills, credentials, all this information. And they work through the process, and then they submit. And they have now applied for the job. So that is a relatively simple process. So from an employee's perspective, what we said is we have to make it easy for the employee to provide information, and we have to make it easy for them to apply for the job. They may not have the time to actually fill out an application, so they can just give us information. It may be at a job fair and people are standing in line and you don't have time to get to everybody, so you can hand an iPad out and say, hey, fill this out and we'll get in touch with you. So it's very easy to get candidate information. So now we have the information. We've seen a little bit of what it looks like for someone to apply. And now we're going to work with the requisition. So the requisition that we're looking at is 328. And the first thing I'll show you is it's very easy to create a requisition. I can pick a requisition and I can say I want to copy this one. So I can copy this requisition. I can create one from scratch. If I create one from scratch, all I do is put in the position, and all the information related to the position will default. So I don't need to enter that. And in a minute, well, let me do that now. When I open up the requisition, before we actually work with it, you'll get a sense of all the pieces of a requisition, and it's going to be approved. There's several approval levels. You define those. And so here I see some basic information about the requisition, the job, who else is going to be on the interview team. These are templates. We can have sample interview questions for these candidates. We can have templates for approval. We can see the responsibilities of the job. We can see the job description. We can see the questions. And so we can see who's on the interview team. Here are the postings. I have my own job board right here, but I can post to multiple places as well as online recruiting sites. It's very easy. It's just as simple as adding a posting. By clicking the plus, I pick the job board. It will put a link on that job board. But again, everything comes back to that site that I showed you. This is where the applicants are going to do their work. So these are the components and pieces of a requisition. You know, I can spend an entire hour just doing a talent acquisition demo where we walk through all the employee options, we walk through the recruiter setting up, who can set up a requisition, how does a manager submit a requisition to be completed by HR. I mean, there's all just, it's a completely automated best of practice module and process. And but you can tweak that process if need be. So now we kind of get a sense of what it looks like for the employee. We get a sense of creating the requisition. And now I'm a recruiter. And this is kind of where I'm going to spend my day. I'm looking at this requisition. I can see that I have a new applicant. I see I have an interview today. I can see where all these, I have 3 people who have applied from our website, 1 person from the internet, 1 from a job fair, and 4 people from a billboard that we posted. There's some requisition notes. These are widgets. You can move these around just like I showed you. There are additional widgets down the bottom here. I can see cost. Billboard was $2,500, printing, posters, posting, travel, and airfare and hotels. This is a fit analysis. So remember, the candidate's going to tell us their competencies and skills, and we're going to compare that with the job. but nothing's been validated yet, but I can get a good sense. I can expand this chart, but I hear someone who has a good behavioral and skills fit, and here's someone who would have, you know, maybe the skills are okay, but the behavioral, they didn't necessarily fill out. So we can see results and we can drill and get detail. But the point is these widgets are going to help me get some overview information about this requisition. Here, I'm going to see all 9 candidates. Now we have 2 things here. We have a behavioral fit and a qualifications. The qualifications are competencies and skills, and the behavioral fit is the actual personality test that I showed you about at the beginning, where we're looking for their behavioral DNA. And the system will actually say, do we recommend them or not recommend them with reservations or qualifications. I can drill in and see the whole report. I can see what's going to motivate this employee. I am able to get sample interview questions. What would be the best way to onboard this person? Just a lot of great information is right here. And this is summary information. I can sort this information by name. I can sort it by qualifications and fits. So all this is information, still summary level information that's going to let me begin to see what's going on with this requisition. If I drill in to a particular employee, now, I'm sorry, a particular applicant, notice here I can view the resume. I can see a lot of information. I can see that this person's applied to 36 positions, so there's a lot. We have some screenings out there, maybe a drug screening or a typing test screening, something like that. And so I can get additional information about this employee. I can see their profile, and additionally, I can see some scores, the interview results. So all the information I'm tracking about this particular candidate is right here, visible to me. And again, there's a lot of information in there, but I want you to get a sense of, everything that's going on, but we don't have time to go into great detail on any one of these topics at this time. But as Paul said, we can certainly come back and do follow-ups on any of this. Then we have the workflow associated with this. And so how are we going to process a candidate? And you can have as many workflows as you would like. In other words, you control this flow. So anyone who's expressed interest is going to be here. Anyone who's completed an application is going to be here. If they've come from another requisition, they're going to be right here. Maybe I want to move a person down this continuum. So here are 2 people that haven't been considered. Here's a person that's the hiring manager. And just simply by
Excuse me.
yes.
I'm not
Yes.
seeing anything on your screen. I'm seeing your screen, yes, but there's nothing on it.
Uh-oh. Is that true for everybody?
Yes.
I'm seeing your screen,
Okay.
but it's
Interesting. All right, hold on. Let me just let me refresh. Are you able to see? Is it still not visible?
Still nothing. Your screen, yes, but the presentation is not on it.
Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing and then share again. You have to give me keys to the kingdom again. I stopped sharing. You,
Robert, you're still showing as presenter.
okay. I'm trying to share my screen.
It's just like it's not done a refresh. It was loading and stopped.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
It's almost certainly that bandwidth issue you were talking about on the WebEx.
Let me do something here. Let me just drop. Right back up. Hold on.
Don't be in my shoes, you know, drop.
All right. Let's see where we are.
Inside by me?
Are we any different at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I think I mean, if you're seeing everything fine on your side, then clearly it's connected with the WebEx, right?
All right, so let me try. I'm going to switch. Let me switch providers here. I'm going to go. I was Comcast. Let me go Verizon real quick and see if that will change.
If not, then I would suggest maybe you drop and come back on the WebEx.
Let's try that. And it seems to be the WebEx more than the connectivity.
So why don't you just drop and then come back on? See,
Okay.
give that a try.
Okay.
Okay, well, hang on. We'll be here.
All right.
So seeing Robert on here. That's strange. Right, when he logs in, it'll create a new one. I don't know if you're having the same problem in Grenada, but everybody's trying to get extra bandwidth. Seems everywhere. I'm in a queue myself to get an upgrade.
Yeah, we have our own challenges every now and again.
Yeah, I mean it's like my two kids are taking school from home, so they're sitting on all day long. So it's one thing to have occasional use at home, but it's another thing to run an office from home.
Exactly.
Robert, are you back? Sure what's become of Robert. How are we doing on time? We can certainly defer. Sure where that static is coming from. We can certainly defer our part of the presentation for a follow-up meeting. Maybe while Robert's reconnecting, I can just put that question out there. When would you like to resume our discussions in terms of the mapping from SmartStream to discuss the project scope and approach, and certainly talk about the implementation and license costs? Do you have any time later this week or early next week to do that?
I can do that later this week.
For me, I'm flexible on Wednesday afternoon. Let me just reconfirm. I think I'm pretty good Thursday, and then Friday afternoon. Double check everything. Yeah, I could be available after 2:00 tomorrow, or very flexible up till 4:00 on Thursday. Sorry, we have some. Claudia, is that you?
Unmuted. He doesn't know.
For some reason, I can hear you, Claudia, even though you do show muted. I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't allow me. Let me try it now.
We're having a lot of problems with it now. Eli can't get on.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah seems to have dropped as well.
Was that consciously or unconsciously? I know I heard that Sherlin had to drop at 11.
Yeah.
Sure, what would stop somebody from getting back on?
Here. Yeah. Can we circle back to you, Paul? Thursday looks like a good day.
Okay.
But let me just confirm with everybody else, and we'll get back to you on that, so we can tentatively suggest Thursday.
Okay, that works for me. And as far as the presentation from Noel, that was proposed for next Monday or Tuesday. Now, that's not a very long presentation. I would assume no more than an hour, but that covers the technical question. Sherlin for sure, and anybody from her team would want to be on that. I can follow up with her separately, but do you have some openings that you can get back to me on for Monday or Tuesday as well? Again,
it looks more like Monday for me. It looks more like Monday for me.
Okay. And again, what this would cover, just to clarify, is it would cover the platform security, the workflow, which is IPA, in-for process automation. We'll cover anything to do with mobility, the business intelligence, including Burst, and anything that we want to discuss in terms of integration.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Deborah's back. Hi, Deborah.
Sorry, I got cut off, but I had a question. I had a question with regards to recruiting.
We're missing our main presenter. Robert hasn't come back yet. Can you just don't lose the question? Just hold on to it until he's missing in action right now. He dropped it. Try and reset. And we're missing somebody from our side. Let me just find out what's happened there. Okay, so Eli, you're back. I see a message there.
I'm back. And it works. My mic works. Everything works. This is cool.
Well, everybody seems to be back except Robert. So not sure what happened to him. Okay, hang on. He's trying to get in. He's being. What did you have to do, Eli, to get back in? Just keep trying, or was there some method?
I actually had to reboot. It locked down my computer.
Oh, interesting.
I got a message saying connecting that lasted quite a while, but finally reconnected.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Claudia.
Okay.
So
I was trying
you had
to
a
call
problem
you.
too?
No, I have no problem. Is that I was with Robert on the line and I got out to try because he was trying to go in and he couldn't. I gotta give him a call again to let him know I was able to.
Yeah, Eli said that she had to reboot when it hung.
Okay, so let me just call him.
Oh wait,
Let me just.
he's joining. He just popped up here.
Good. Robert, are you there?
Yeah, I just tried to get in again. Okay, I have no idea what the problem was.
No, it's,
Well, it may not have been you. It may have been WebEx. It may have been Cisco, because you weren't alone. They froze for you, but a couple of others actually got dropped. So.
Okay, yeah, it appeared to be a WebEx issue once I got out. Good, okay.
Yeah. Well, I suppose they're being pressed to the limit as well these days, right?
Sure. So let me just wrap up this town acquisition.
And also, Robert, just to let you know, also there was a question that we held. So I'm going to go on mute because I'm producing a lot of background noise, but I want you to be aware there's a question as well.
Okay. Question?
Yes. Question.
Deborah,
Yes.
just hold a minute. Just hold a minute, please. Miss Caton, can you mute yourself?
Okay.
All right, good. Deborah, that's better. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, you are showing recruiting. Supposing you have a job position, but you want to recruit from within. Could you? Yes. Is there a way of finding suitable employees from within?
Yes. So there's two things. So you'll notice if I open up this requisition, I can post this job internally before I post it externally. So when I come to the postings here, notice that I can pick employee self-service. So I can post it so when I'm an employee, remember over here, as an employee, when I log in, one of the things from employee space was opportunities. So we will point the folks who are external to your website, but the folks who are internal, they actually have their own internal job board. And so we are able to post internally without posting externally, or we can post internally for 2 weeks before we post externally. And so those are good options. And let me show you the one other thing that I was going to point out to you. We are also able to search the entire applicant database and say who is internal and who is external. And I'll show you that in a second. But right from here, we can scroll down and we can see opportunities. And this is what it would look like for an employee who comes in. They would see all the jobs that are posted internally, and anything that's been posted recent would show up right here. Now, as a recruiter, we do have the candidate pool. And the candidate pool is every single person who has filled out a profile, every single person in our organization. And so right here, I can say I only want to see internal or external, and then I can search by city, state, credential, education. And then I can actually see also how many applications. I can drill right in here and see what this candidate has applied for and things like that. So if somebody has a CPA certificate, I've searched and now I can see all the people who have CPAs and who are all the internal people who have I have 2 people inside my organization who have CPA certificates. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. The thing I was going to mention here, do you see these workflows? You create the workflow. We have customers where there's 50 steps. An applicant goes through 50 steps. Then we have customers who basically use 5 steps. They receive the applicants, they review them, they either dismiss them or they move them to a manager, and then they hire them. They have just a handful of steps, so they don't have a long workflow. The workflow that I'm showing you here for this requisition, 328, has several steps to it. And we can see how many people are at each level. So what's going to happen? Folks are going to go from expressing interest, then we're going to send them to the recruiter who's going to screen them. Then they're going to be not considered. Maybe we'll send them to the hiring manager. And once they're sent to the hiring manager, I can say I want to move them another step. And maybe I'm going to send them now for an interview. And then we're going to move them down this continuum. So this person's no longer in the hiring manager. They're now in interview. We'll say they've been interviewed once. Well, we may want to move them a step and send them down to a second interview. And so you get the idea. We can move them through these actions all the way down to offer. Now we can do this by individual, or we can do it in mass. I can take all 3 of these candidates and dismiss them all at the same time just by checkbox. I get links here to quick information about each candidate. And then we've also been told that right here, even though we have, we can drill in and see a resume. And if I slide over here, I can see their email account and I can see their resume. Folks said, you know what, we just want to be able to click very quickly and see people's resumes. And I can have all kind of filtering ability here, but I can click here and then see this person's resume. And again, I can close these windows and have more space. But I can move down the line and quickly see people's information. So the point that I'm making, and again, this was very high level, we don't have one size fits all. What we do is we allow you to create your own workflow. Now, behind each one of these workflows, there are automated actions. When I move them from recruiter screen to not considered, we can automatically generate an email that says you are no longer being considered for this job. If we move them to the hiring manager is notified and the hiring manager gets an email, and attached to the email may be a list of interview questions or whatever else you want to. Maybe you don't attach the interview questions until you schedule the interview, but whatever automation you want behind each of these actions, we can do. And so the point is, it's completely automated. You control the process because one size doesn't fit all. So for example, if I were to come over here and go to these workflows, there's a workflow here that we call Evergreen. Now this has very few steps. Basically, it comes into the recruiter inbox and it's going to get there by either an application, expressed interest, or we move them from another requisition. And all we're going to do is screen them. Then we'll either say, let's send them to the manager, or we won't select them. And then we're either going to hold for future or we're going to move them to a different requisition. So this workflow basically has, 6 steps. Very easy, very simple. So we can create as many workflows as we want. This workflow has a lot of steps. This workflow has just a handful. So this is the process through which we're going to move all the applicants. But the cool thing here is that each one of these levels, by workflow, I can take all these people and still perform an action. I can move them all a step. So it's a completely automated process and it's very flexible. So with that, let me see if you have any questions about talent acquisition. We're just going to spend a very few minutes on performance and then we'll wrap it up with time and attendance. Any questions? All righty.
None from me, Robert. I mean, I am really excited with what I'm seeing.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So as an employee, I'm back in the solution as Sean Blair. And let me just go to my profile. We're just going to talk about performance reviews very quickly. I can see all my performance reviews from my profile, and it's an automated process. The performance reviews are sent out, and in this case, I'm being asked to pick a third party. Who else do I want to rate me this year? Who am I going to get input from? So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to pick employee 10, which is Mike. I'm going to say, okay, and he's my peer. And I'm going to say, spell checker. And then I'm just going to submit this. Now that's going to go to my manager, and my manager is going to review it and approve it. And then the process begins, and I'll explain the process to you. But these performance reviews can go out on anniversary date. They can go out after 6 months of employment. They can go out in mass. They can go out individually. You control that entire process. Now, as a manager, I can see all my reviews. I can see any that are active. I can see the ones that are finished, acknowledged, and historical, and I'm going to explain that to you right now. The best way to explain it to you is to just show you a graph. And as a manager, I have people who report to me. So I have 81 performance reviews out there that I haven't even started. Once I start working on them, they're in progress. I have 5 that I'm currently working on. Once I finish them, they're finalized, and I have 6 that are finalized. Now, once they're finalized, both the employee and the manager have to agree and say, yes, we met, and yes, we both acknowledge that this review has taken place and we're in agreement. So now I have 2 that I've sent back to employees who need to come back and say, yes, Robert, I have finished and I agree. And now I have 7 employees who have reviewed it and sent it back to me and say, I'm cool with it, I'm fine, and I need to acknowledge. So there's this continuum, and I can look and see and work on these reports at every step of the process, or these reviews. Now, the cool thing is the level above me, I'm a manager here, the level above me in HR gets to see this for every single manager. So the HR person in charge of performance reviews can see every single manager and where they are in the process. Are they on schedule? Are they not? Have they started? Are they behind? Are they doing a good job or not? So they have full visibility. So as a manager, I can come over here and I can say I want to review performance. And I can see now each one of my staff members. And if I come down here to Sean, I can see what's active. I see I've started these, which ones are final and which ones are historical. And the reason there's tons of them here is because I use this person all the time for my demo. Normally you're going to see 1 per year or 2 per year, whatever your process is. And if there is a third party, I'm able to see the employee's review. I'm able to see the manager's review. And then if there's a peer, I didn't complete the peer one, it would say peer review. So I could see each one individually, or in this case, I could click on this one right here, and I could say that I wanted to see the consolidated appraisal, which now shows me the manager and the employee, and it would show me the peer review if they had completed it. Your performance review does not need to look like this. This is just a sample. I'm always hesitant to show what it looks like because people then say that's not what ours looks like. We've had people give us 25-page performance reviews, and we've created it for them to show them that we can do their review. And we have people who give us a 1-page review. Basically, think of it that every performance review has pieces to it. There's a header. Well, we create a header. We can use that on any one of the performance reviews. It can be for exempt, non-exempt employees, or be for professional, non-professional, whatever. We create these components and we can use them over and over again. But the point here is your header might say something like, welcome to the annual review process for the Ministry of Finance or whatever. Under employee, there's the ability to just check boxes. Do we want their name, address? Do we want their job to show here? Whatever. We check boxes, and whatever we check, all that information shows here. We create this criteria section. You can have multiple criteria sections. It can be based on job. It can be based on a competency model. It can be based on user-defined criteria or third-party criteria, whatever you want. And then we can have sections where there's comments. Their goals can show. Those raves that I showed you earlier can be on this particular performance review. They can have current goals and future goals, activities, future activities. Right in the middle of the review process, we can sign a person up for a course, and then we can see their gap. So you control what this looks like, and all these pieces, you kind of put it together to make it make sense for you and what it looks like. But it's an automated process, and you cannot complete the process until the manager and the employee sit down. They have to acknowledge that they at some point sat down and looked at each other face to face. And they acknowledge that, and then it moves through to historical. And then once it's in the historical, we are able to pull it up like I just pulled this one up. All righty, so I'm going to close some of these tabs that I had open. And so that is the process. It's pretty simple, but I at least wanted to cover it. And we can do a full beginning to end performance review. If you'd like to see that, I can show the administrator role of the performance review and how we create them. You know, you tell me what's most important, and I'll be happy to show that. I have right now that we were going to cover time and attendance, and we're going to try to wrap this up sometime very shortly. So let me just show you some time and attendance, and then we will wrap it up. Now for my mobile to work, I need to switch to There are multiple ways to enter time into the solution. And I wanted to show you a quick slide. I won't belabor this, just know that we have organizations all over the world of varying sizes, states, government entities that use this time and attendance solution, very flexible and highly configurable. And as far as entering time, it can be from clocks, mobile devices, and on the computer as well. That's a sample. I'm going to share my phone again very quickly to give you an idea of what it would look like for somebody to enter time, first from a mobile device and then from a computer. My phone is thinking. If I'm unable to get the Wi-Fi to work, my phone had automatically linked to different Wi-Fi. So it should be back now. Take a second. Right. There we go. So what we're going to do is just show a couple quick ways that I can enter time. We have a daily timesheet where someone enters a start and stop time, and we have a weekly timesheet, where someone just tells us the hours they work, and it's elapsed time. So I'm going to show you both. And in this case, I'm logging in. And the first thing you see here is I'm basically just selecting on or off. I'm already on. So if I want to, I press off and it says, are you sure you want to clock off? I can do the deal on or off. Here I can change jobs. This person happens to clean buildings, so they're either a custodian, and they also have a job where they do maintenance work. They might do some minor repairs on a building, and so they can do maintenance. As soon as I pick maintenance, it's going to ask me, do we want to record the location? And I'm going to say allow. So what it's doing, we actually do geo-tracking and geo-fencing. We know where they are. Well, we can show that right on the timesheet. You can click on a link and it will show you where they are working when they make that change. I can change jobs, departments, time codes. I can do my clock transactions, a whole lot of really great stuff here. I can see my messages. Time off was approved. And I can see my schedule. And I can see everybody who I work with, my co-workers' schedules as well. On any given day, I can, right up here, I can click here and I can give that shift away, or I can swap that shift, and I can scroll up and down and see what my schedule is for that day. I click right here on this globe, and it lets me put my schedule right to my calendar, so I can see my schedule on my calendar. Also from here, I can see some basic information. I got my profile, my balances for my leave. I can request time off. I see a calendar right here. Here's the legend. It tells me the blue is pending approval, green means it's approved. And I can again see my balances right from here if I want to. And if I want to take a day off next month, I'm just swiping up on my phone to get to next month. And let me say I want to take off this Monday the 4th. It's just as simple as picking vacation. And if these were required, there'd be a little asterisk right here. They're not required. I'm just going to go ahead and apply for time off and submit that time off. And I just submitted that time off. And from here, I can see my timesheet and I'll log out. Very quick, very easy. If I am not a person who punches, and my job is where I just record the hours for the day, it would look like this. So I worked 8 hours each day. If I go back to last week, let's say, and I open it up, I can click on that day. And I can see I worked 8 hours as an engineer. And I see my time code summary at the bottom. And I too am able to change this information if I have to. I can add additional hours that I work for the day. I can slide this. I can say I can pick a different time code, or I can switch jobs. Maybe I was a project manager. So again, I have the flexibility to record my time on a weekly basis from my phone. And I too here can see my profile. And I have that same time off functionality right here. So this is what it looks like from a mobile perspective. I'm going to show you two more things. I'm going to show you what it would look like from an employee who is entering time from a timesheet, entering time on a weekly basis. And that's going to go right here. And I'm going to say time and attendance. I'm going to probably have to log in again. Normally I would not, but because I'm changing roles and I've logged in and out multiple times, you have single sign-on, so the person will never have to log in multiple times. I'm going to go to my timesheet. And if I don't use my mobile device, this is what it would look like. And I would just enter the hours that I worked each day. This can default. These are the labor metrics. I can pick job, department, and project from here. Say I want to give elapsed time. That's going to look something like this, where I work on different projects. And I can spread, this can be as many days as I want. I can actually save this. I can have a default time record. I can save this as a preset and say, this is my winter schedule versus summer schedule, or maybe I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday in one department, Tuesday, Thursday in another. I can have a split time preset. I basically just save these. I can say I want to save this. I give it a name, and then this pattern is forever saved, and it's just a matter of loading it. You'll also notice I can say same as last week. So a lot of good functionality to very quickly and easily enter time. If I am a manager, the point that I wanted to make here, and I'll wrap up from the manager perspective. So as a manager, the most important thing to me is getting in and out of the solution. I was a payroll, I was in charge of payroll as a financial officer. There was a payroll manager, and I oversaw payroll for a dozen years. And I can tell you firsthand that managers do not like to do time and attendance. Managers are generally pulled in multiple directions. Research shows a supervisor or manager spends 20 minutes a day on average on any one task. The last thing they want to do is to fill out attendance sheets or figure out who hasn't filled out an attendance sheet. So this whole system is designed to make it easy for the manager to get in and out. This is one of those dashboards I was telling you about. And again, there are multiple types of reports here because I demonstrate to all different kind of organizations. But the key is that in your organization, we would have all the relevant information here. They can highlight, drill, do whatever they need to do. As soon as they log in, they have the reports they need. And right down here is what's called a notification bar. This is an icon of people. This is the clock. This is the timesheet. These are alerts. And this is my in-basket. If I come into work and these are all zeros, I have no people problems, no clock problems, no timesheet problems. You get the idea. And I can get right back out. I can come here and see, okay, I have 13 people who report to me. One person's not scheduled today. One person is scheduled to come in later. I have one person who's absent or late. They didn't show up, and I have 10 people doing exactly what I expect them to do. So right here, I can look at Joe. I see Joe's not here. I can call Joe. I can say, Joe, what happened? I can view his timesheet and schedule. I can come back here and then say, hey, here's somebody who's not scheduled. Do you call them? Do you want to come in for Joe today? They say no. I can come here and I say, hey, George, I know you're scheduled to come in later. You want to come in earlier? So I can solve my problems right from here. These are people who have punched in and haven't punched out. So for example, this person came on 4/15 but never left. Well, they left, but they forgot to punch out. So I can just add that right here and solve the problem. These are timesheet errors. I'll show you those in a minute. These are alerts. I have someone approaching overtime. I have someone that has skills expiring. Whatever's important to you. Someone didn't take a lunch. Someone took an hour and a half lunch rather than an hour. Whatever. And then here is my in-basket telling me, again, time off request. And you've seen this. I have these time off requests right here. If I do go to the timesheet, I can go to where a particular individual has an issue. So right here, timesheet. Let's go with I don't want to do that. Let me go to this timesheet right here, and I'll pull up a particular team. Here's my maintenance team. So I'm going to say I want to see them for this week. And the point I want to make here is if this person, I'm simulating a punch now, say they came in late. Tell me they came in late. If today this person left that early, the system's going to tell me that they left early. This person works overtime. The system is going to tell me that they worked overtime, and I can drill in and I can see the details, and I can see that they're getting paid time and a half. The rules are highly configurable, and anytime there's a red X, I'm going to get a timesheet alert. And as soon as I click on that alert, it's going to bring me right here. It's going to be highlighted in blue. I can see the error. I can see the details. I can approve it if I want to. And I can get in and out of the system very quickly. The last thing I'll point out is everything that's done is, I can see the edits. I have a full audit trail of everything that's been done. And at the end of the pay period, when I load this supervisor approval view for my maintenance and my highways, let's say, this is what I see at the end of the pay period. I immediately can scroll to the bottom and I can see, okay, I have 82 of 84 records approved. So I've got two problems. The problems jump out. These are unauthorized records. I define what unauthorized looks like. Do I care if somebody's a minute late? If I don't care, we'll make unauthorized after 5 minutes. If you don't even want to deal with that, you round it. You put in a rounding rule and you say if they come in 7.5 minutes after the quarter hour, it's automatically going to round up. If it's before that, it rounds down. I'm not messing with it. But if you want to know if they're late, we can make that an unauthorized record and you'll see it right here. I can filter this and say, I only want to see, sorry, there's something blocking it. I only want to see the unauthorized records, which are my problem children, and I can deal with those. But the cool thing is, right from here, I can click. It takes me right to my timesheet. I can see whatever the problems were. I can approve it, submit it, and I am right back to my supervisory approval view. I can say, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to get upset about that. Right back. And now I am ready. All my records are approved and I'm going to submit it. Goal, let's get them in and out of the solution. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I'll go back to this original slide just to kind of show you that it is a comprehensive solution, covers recruitment to retirement, really every aspect of the employee life cycle. And the manager, the employee, the administrator, whoever, whatever the role is, have full visibility into whatever you want them to see. So with that, that's a very high level overview. And Paul, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. Very nice presentation indeed. Questions before we move on to the wrap up?
So I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah. Quick question for Robert.
Yes.
So time and attendance, from the perspective of the manager, you will always have that one employee who attempts to game the system. So can you confirm that it is the location data that will ensure that when an employee clocks in or out, that it will serve as validation that the employee was actually on the job at the time of clocking in?
Robert, you got that? Robert, are you still there?
I lost you.
Okay. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Did you catch the question or?
Yes, I believe, how do we know where that person is? So I just logged in as Brad Hartso a moment ago. So I'm going to say this week. And that punch that I just did into here, and I can look at detail and I can see where that punch took place. I live at 516 Wilton Road, and I can see it right here. So we have geo-tracking and geo-fencing. We know where they are for every single punch, and additionally, we can draw a radius around any location. We can draw a location around my house and say, I can't punch in or out unless I'm within a mile of that location, and I have to be within that radius to punch in or out. Does that answer the question?
Excellent, it does.
Yeah, there's just so much cool functionality. I appreciate the question, and I'd love to be able to show you more.
Just on that note, again, if there are questions that the team comes up with, following this or as a result of reviewing the recordings, I mean, we can certainly follow up, through Infor to Robert to get any clarifications, any, even if we have to, do another short revisit of certain things, you just need to let us know. Are there other questions that we can address right now, though?
I am good so far. Anybody else has questions? Maybe once we review it again, Paul, if anything comes up, we'll definitely reach out again.
Sure. Okay. One of the things that would be helpful for me is if you want to send me the email address for the attendees, I'll make sure then that our team, when they do the landing page, that they send you the address so that you can capture everything there. What I'll do in the interest of time is I'll take the full recording and put it there so that you have it immediately. But we'll probably need a few days to do the editing, and we'll still do that. But it may take us, to Friday or even Monday to fine tune that. But in the interest of time, I can get you the recording right away. And then again, in terms of questions, you'll see on the landing page, there is a way to reach out to us there, but it might be better to compile all the questions in one place, formally, and that way I can ensure that they go through Claudia to Robert to get any clarifications. And we can play it by ear in terms of whether you need to actually see something or whether we can address that verbally or with screenshots, whichever. So
Okay, that's great. So Dina would get you the email addresses for all of the participants.
Okay, that's perfect. And if there's anybody else, for whatever reason, you want to, send this to, just let us know. And we'll make sure that Sherlin's on there as well. So our wrap up, I'm hoping this wrap up will be helpful. Robert, maybe you can just make Elizabeth the presenter.
Okay, I'll just stop sharing, or I can assign, make this participant Elizabeth.
Yeah, you should just be able, if you want to go on the participant list, you can do it that way too.
I did. Okay.
Okay. There you go, Eli. So if you want to start sharing. So what Eli's done is just to make it really clear, what maps to what. And then that'll help you understand, just how much of an evolution has really just taken place in terms of, SmartStream over to Cloud Suite. I forget the official number. Maybe you know the official number off the top of your head, Robert. What is the current investment that's gone in so far to Cloud Suite, including HCM? I think it's over $1 billion, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I don't know the exact number, but a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money. So the last I heard, it was already over $1 billion in investment to build this next generation product. So it's quite substantial. The Koch brothers, one of the biggest firms in the U.S., put in now, I think it's $3.5 billion, isn't that right? Something like that. So far into Infor, and of course they're not the only ones. There's a very big private equity firm that is the original stakeholder. So a real reinvention. So with that, I think it's important again just to kind of see where you are and where you can potentially go. And I'll turn it over to Eli to walk you through that, and we can answer any questions along the way, and then we'll just wrap up with some next steps. Eli, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. That was a great presentation, Robert. Thank you. I don't want to get you guys too far onto an overload. So what I want to talk about just for a few minutes is the comparison of the functionality and addressing the gaps in SmartStream that you currently experience. And then we'll end it with some open questions that we still have that we will consider as we go through this process. So when you look at the functionality between the two systems, what I was trying to do with this slide is give you some kind of visual on where you're going with with this next generation of software. Your current software is, which is SmartStream, is the lower bar brackets. And what I did was I went into each system, both HCM and SmartStream, and I pretty much did just kind of a count of how many functionalities the two different systems did. And this created this comparison. And when I stepped away and looked at it, it was kind of on mark. And I think you probably experienced that this morning watching Robert's demo, because the HCM system is much more robust than SmartStream. So this slide is just kind of giving you a visual of the different components of the two systems and how they compare against each other. So then it took me to current state versus future state. So in the current state today, your system of record is SmartStream, personnel and payroll. And that creates your payroll and your paychecks. So if we take that to a future state, what I am thinking where we're going, this is not etched in stone, but I think this is where we're going. The system of record would then become Cloud Suite HCM. We'll leave SmartStream payroll in place to produce the checks and the bank files because you're used to that. All of your calculations are there. That's where it'll stay. So we have to share data between the two. So I'm thinking there's going to be an interface, maybe multiple interfaces on a timely basis to share information back over to SmartStream to keep it in sync. Name, addresses, calculations, pay changes, terminations, new hires, all of the things that you need to keep in sync between your payroll system and your personnel system. So out of SmartStream, your paychecks will remain the same, but we'll need to loop back around to HCM and bring those checks and the details back to HCM for viewing. Between those two, I'm thinking we need an audit because we need to probably prior to each payroll system or each cycle, we need to somehow compare the two sets of data. And we're not going to compare all the data. We're only going to compare the data that's critical to payroll to make sure the two systems remain in sync. This will be very important in the beginning, and it may taper off as we go through it as the system matures. Any questions? So then we got in. Thank you. So then we get into the gaps. Now, Danae and I have talked extensively since this slide was created. So we have a lot more, not really gaps, but we have more detail. We know a lot more than this slide really presents, but this is a good summary of what we're facing. So we talked about contractors paid in AP, reporting problems. We talked about history. We talked about automatic reviews, appraisals, which you saw, which Robert showed us. We also talked about multiple level of management approvals, which I believe Robert also has walked through for you. So we talked about a lot of things at a high level. And like I said, Danae and I've talked about it since then, and we've drilled down on a lot of things. But I took each one of these and I broke them down into how it would look in the future. So it's really touch points. It's not really a solution. I'm trying not to define your solution. I need your input for that. But at first glance, when we talk about current SmartStream, taking it over to future HCM, we need to look at the different components. So the first one was the contractors paid in AP. And I may not have this right. I'm assuming some contractor records are in personnel, but they're actually paid in AP. So when we migrate to HCM, we need to take those contractor records to the HCM personnel system and then use that payroll integration that we talked about earlier and actually produce their checks and get those guys out of AP. That puts them into your headcount reporting. It puts them into your budget. Then we talked about reporting. This particular one is open positions. So in personnel, you've got jobs and positions. You have employee assignment. If you bring that over to HCM, it's position, budget, and work assignments. Work assignments is pretty much the same as employee assignments. Out of that, you can use burst analytics or other reporting methods in HCM to create a report on open positions. That was one of the gaps that we talked about. Another gap we talked about was disciplinary action in history. When we did it in SmartStream, it's employee issues, employee violations, and incidents. We map that over to HCM, and it involves two modules, the employee relations module and the health and safety module. And then of those two modules, it breaks down into coaching, discipline, grievances, incidents, and near misses. Some of this will be new to you, but some of it will be a straight mapping. Automated reviews and appraisals, Robert showed that to us great. In SmartStream, it was just employee reviews. Not a lot of meat to it, not a lot of history. That will be in the performance module of HCM, and it involves a lot of different things. One of them was the appraisal dashboard, which you saw, and the employee appraisal, which you saw, which I think is where you want to go with your automated. I didn't see anything with the workflows and the sophistication of that module. I think you're set. Applicant data entry, we talked about that. In your old system, it's very manual, it's very laborious. You have to enter a lot of data. In the new system, the candidate enters a lot. You bring it in through resumes, it goes through workflow. There's a lot of hiring involved, hiring managers involved. I think it will, after we look at it a little harder, a little deeper, it will suffice. Workforce planning, same thing. That involves the position budget module. There are rules to build, there's budgets to build, manager involvement. We'll take a deeper look at that. Reporting and analytics. There's a lot of different ways to do reporting and analytics. Robert touched on several of them. We have embedded, we have screen, we have analytic cubes, we have burst, we have screen list, and then we have spreadsheet designer. Spreadsheet designer is a tool very similar to the way you use MS Access today. It attaches to the business classes or the tables of the HCM product, and you can query, you can download, you can massage the data. There's a lot of things you can do with Spreadsheet Designer. If you think of MS Access and what you do today with MS Access, that's what you do with Spreadsheet Designer. And then multi-level management approvals was another gap you guys were talking about. With workflow, you can pretty much do anything you want to. Robert showed us that. I think it will help you in your everyday. It'll help you with your approvals, appraisals, hiring. It will come into play in many different areas. Leave balances. Didn't talk about that a lot today, but in Absence Manager, we set up accruals, much like we do today in Pay Elements in SmartStream, where we set up accruals, set up leaves. We have balances. You have to build it. In Absence Manager, it's a little bit more of a process for you. A lot of stuff is built in. It'll do allotments for lump sum at the beginning of the year, accruals during the month. There's a lot in leave absence, so we'll talk about that more later too. The different types of employees, we were talking about that. So in GHR, you can have any number of different types of employees. You can use contractor, you can use permanent employees, daily workers. The management, the employee types are totally up to you. So then that brings us to our final, the consideration. So we just have a couple of more things to talk about as we progress through this process. We need to talk about which modules. We need to talk about how many employees. We need to talk about how much history we're going to migrate. We need to talk about the reports that you're going to be required. Just normal project planning topics. And I think that will be upcoming in the next couple of weeks as Paul sets up some additional meetings for us as we continue to do our discovery. Do we have any questions? I went through that pretty quick, but I just wanted you to know that this is the process we're going to do. We're going to take your gaps. We're going to go through them very methodically. We're going to map them over to HCM. We're going to find a place for them. Then we're going to map and gap fields, your retention, and how to get that data over from SmartStream to HCM and where we're going to put it. And I think it'll be a great system for you. So with that,
And we'll be
Paul?
yeah, I was just going to say, we'll be sending you this PowerPoint that you're seeing right now, plus Robert's PowerPoint as well. So I saw an email come in from Dene, so I've got the email addresses, it looks like, and I'll send these out later this afternoon, so you have both of those. These clarification questions here, of course, you know, these will matter in terms of finalizing a scope. The way we like to do projects is we like to be, you know, as clear as possible about the scope, you know, not only what's in, but very clearly what's out, or out as in out permanently, out deferred for a later phase. We can even define what those phases might be. There's a lot of flexibility in terms of how we can approach the implementation here in terms of getting, you know, real value from the system as soon as possible, and possibly then, you know, adding the other modules in a sequential fashion. There's not a right or a wrong way to do it. So that's certainly, you know, what we'll want to cover in our next conversation, you know, possibly later this week. And we'll touch on some of these subjects as part of that. You know, part of that sequencing, you know, does deal with the practical matters of, you know, the fact that, you know, most organizations don't have the luxury of a dedicated full-time, you know, project team, and you know, the availability of resources on your side is, you know, a normal constraint, and we would have to make sure that we work around that so that, you know, we tie in with a reasonable deadline, and an assignment of work effort across, you know, different parts of the organization, and including IT, of course. So that's part of what we would want to cover there. And then the result would be we will produce for you a proposal that spells out, again, the scope, the resources, the timeline, you know, in scope, out of scope, assumptions, you know, the entire project plan, if you want to think about it at a high level with detail. And we'll also, of course, talk to you about the licensing costs as well. And we have a few ideas how we can deal with the new world of COVID that we're living in as well. We are comfortable. I know today, you know, Citrix, one of the biggest U.S. corporations in technologies, had its challenges, but that is unusual for them. And you know, we certainly ourselves use various technologies to work remotely. You know, even though COVID's made things more complicated, you know, for us as a reality, we've been working increasingly, you know, offsite as part of normal implementation engagements anyway. This has just kind of made it, you know, essential for the short, medium term, but you know, we're well accustomed to doing this kind of work remotely. WebEx is just one of the technologies we do, but you know, we use a web-based, you know, project management tool. We use Teams. We use GoToMeeting, and you know, a large number of technologies. And of course, the fact that this is a cloud application means from your side, you're able to access the application from home or the office. It's really all the same thing. So that's the good news. This is working to support the complexities of a COVID world. So we can, again, talk a little bit about those kind of logistics as well. And that, of course, you know, has an impact in terms of our budget estimate for travel and living expenses, you know, the face-to-face time. And we'll also talk about the in-force, you know, project team training. I think we touched on that in one of our earlier calls, but again, just to remind you that those are normally done remotely anyways. I mean, there is, you know, sometimes the option of having the instructor come. There is some value. There's always some value to FaceTime. I don't want to say there isn't, but in the case of standard delivered classes, having an instructor deliver those remotely really, you know, isn't a problem. That is normally how they operate anyways. So, you know, those are an important part of starting the project off, and we would just use those delivered services from Infor as usual. So with that, We don't have any further detail to share with you from our side. We did talk about you're getting back to us on the two dates. One date to be focused on the implementation side. Again, what we just covered in terms of scope and resources and approach, especially. And then a second 1 hour presentation that would be on the technical side. And again, the options that are currently out there are for Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we would look forward to hearing back from you in terms of, again, your availability for this project planning session this week or next week, whichever works for you, and then this technical one. And I think at the end of those two sessions and any follow-up questions you've got here, I think we can pull together all the strands to get you all the final information you need, maybe working towards a goal of the end of next week or something like that. I'll leave it to Eli and Danae to decide when they've got to the point where they feel comfortable that everything, all the detail is needed for our proposal. But we see this as more of a short-term situation in terms of getting everything compiled.
Thank you for that, Paul. Thank you to Robert and Elizabeth. Excellent presentations, and we really continue to learn a lot more about this suite of services. Paul, we are really grateful for the support. At this time, we are in uncharted waters here. And so you really do have our commitment to ensuring that we are able to craft a solution that's feasible for the government of Grenada. I will ask Dine to follow up with the rest of my team so that we can confirm the dates for the next two meetings. But the project planning is very critical at this moment because we have a lot of resource allocation discussions happening within government, and I need to be able to get my foot in there very quickly. So I would want our side to be able to advance the project planning discussion so that we can get a sense of the size of the resources that we need to be advocating for at this point. So we will get back to you later on today on the confirmation of the next two meetings. But all in all, I think we had great insight today, and I am quite pleased with what I'm seeing. I think it's safe to say at this point that I am seeing what it is that we need, and I'm quite happy with that.
Well, that's wonderful feedback, and we're feeling a good comfort level ourselves as we engage with you. I think we're on the same page, and I think Elizabeth and Dine are doing a great job of getting down to the nuts and bolts that I never feel comfortable unless those are spelled out in a project charter document that everybody, on both sides of the project team, can relate to and say, yes, that's it. That's exactly what I want and when I need it. And I think that's where we're headed. So we'll just have to, finalize that. But this next discussion will give us a chance to figure about priorities. And to your point about resources, that's closely related. So we'll need your guidance, and we can talk about options in that meeting. And based on that, again, we can take it to the next step in terms of documenting it. And I'll show you a sample of what that looks like too. I'll scrub down one that we've used for another project so you have a sense of where we're headed. That might make it easier to visualize what we're trying to do.
Excellent.
Good. Well, that's everything on our side. It sounds like on yours. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.